The June 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Carlington School District Board of Directors is called to order. Ms. Puskar, would you mind leading us in the pledge? All right. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Director Frank. Director Puskar. Director Zaletsky. Director Simsik. Director Mendoza. Director Apple.
Here.
Director Honchar. Director O'Brien. Director Shriver.
Here. There's a time at the beginning of each meeting where we invite the public to ask any questions about agenda items. So is there anybody here that would like to ask any questions on agenda items tonight? Nope. All right. There is a time at the end where people can ask about any item at all. I'll go on to section 2 where we look at minutes of previous meetings. I'll entertain a motion to approve 2 items. Number 1, the minutes of the June 8th, 2021 Finance Committee meeting, and number 2, minutes of the May 18th, 2021 voting meeting. Do I have a motion for those 2 items? Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under section 3 reports, I'll report that we had an executive session prior to this meeting where we talked about student matters, safety, real estate, and personnel. And I'll turn to Dr. Crater for the superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. Shriver. We actually have 2 reports tonight. We have Mr. Loughran here, who is our school safety coordinator. He will provide us with an update on school safety. Mr. Loughran? Yeah, be easiest.
1st of September. We had elected the administrative team to push that back in December to practice our fire drills every month, our severe weather drill, reverse evacuation, positive evacuation, water and water, and review the external threats at each building level. So, preventative measures, something that we're pretty proud of here, especially about a year and a half ago, safe to say, after Ohio came out, it allows students to give honest tips if there's another crisis. The year prior to COVID, beginning of the year, we got a lot of action on that tip line, where we were able to provide supports to our students. During the pandemic, the tip line kind of closed down, so we'll work on reintroducing that at orientations to students and families, and then also in the home. The sixth graders that are coming up, because it focuses on student safety, 12 and above, for the safety setting out. We'll get that in their seventh grade. I also put into the report mental health services throughout the pandemic, SAP numbers, referrals throughout the year. Our Aggie Elementary at 60, Grafton at 32, and high school at 90. SAP referrals to where the students have barriers to their learning. We have a team of teachers, faculty, are all trained staff in the student assistance program, and based on a system of method in all three buildings. In addition, we try to maintain the environment in all the buildings so that it's continuous K through 12. We have a school-wide positive behavior support intervention. This building, it's the third year. Got a little bit interrupted. The team still did some work. And all three buildings also have graphic technology. So people working at front desks have continuous training so that they're effective. Preventive measures. This year we had a suicide risk assessment training for counselors and building principals and two special education teachers throughout the district. Go over the protocol and procedures to take should there be a suicide risk capital improvements, make sure that our grounds are safe. Mr. McDavid, department does a great job installing the safety glass in the pool area, bulletproof windows up at the junior high school. I'm not going to sing. Okay. Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones and the IT department have done a great job of making sure that our students are safe online as well. And we've made progress. Two software and hardware things that we've used are, is it Sophos? Sophos, thank you. An antivirus and firewall content filtering. So if there are things that are put on our server, Mr. Jones gets notification, and then he contacts the building principals, and then we contact the families and the kids. And we had a number of those this year, and they're all reported back to Dr. Kreider when those occur. And that's, maybe I mixed that up a little bit. That's what Impero does, I think. Education, we have we'll continue to look at our acceptable use policy, which will be reflected in the student handbooks and in the Carlington District Virtual Learning Handbook. The focus for 2021-22 is to provide a refresher training for our student assistance program for the teachers that are trained in that, and also hopefully get some new team members. Continue with to develop and adjust our COVID plans. Antigen testing will be available as we were trained through a partnership with the county. And one of the things that we're extremely excited about is, which you're all aware of, is the mindfulness and mental health care that we'll have K through 12 with our partnership with Allegheny Health Network in the chill room. It will be a great resource for students and for faculty and staff in all of the buildings. And I believe we're one of the first districts to have a K through 12 proactive approach for providing mental health services and teaching students and faculty how to be mindful. Act 18 of 2019 requires the school safety coordinator to attend trainings and also establish threat assessment teams. So if there is a crisis in one of the buildings, each building will have a threat crisis team made up of various members within that building. And they'll all report back to the building level leader will be the site coordinator, and then the site coordinators will report to Dr. Kreider, who oversees the district. We look to have all emergency services have visits to the buildings throughout the course of the 2021-22 school year. And one of the big goals for next year is to fine tune our reunification process in case of an intruder or some other type of crisis. And that pretty much concludes the school safety report. Going to the trainings last year was prior to COVID was great to see how all the larger pieces fit together. But this is a huge undertaking to try to make sure that all three buildings are on the same page. And I want to thank Dr. Kreider for giving attention to that and hearing us out and coming up with the two goals for the upcoming school year, which would be the reunification and the emergency threat teams for next year. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Lockren. Any questions from the board in regard to the safety report? Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Mr. Lockren. Serving as the district safety coordinator, the time and effort you put into making the district safe, not just our students, our staff, but community at large, greatly appreciated. It's a large undertaking to oversee that entire process, and your work with that is greatly appreciated. So thank you, and thanks for tonight's report. Mr. Lockren is off to work on his doctoral program through Point Park, so he has a class tonight, which he's going to step out for and attend that class. So thank you for stopping in here.
Thanks, man.
And just a quick announcement as far as over the past year, a little more than a year now, we've been using the Zoom feature to push out our board meetings. Tonight will be the last board meeting where we use the Zoom feature. We'll be returning in July to full in-person board meetings, and we will continue to record our board sessions. We'll post those up online at the conclusion of board meetings so that they are available to the public. My report this evening is designed to foster some collaboration, a little bit of dialogue with the board, and then moving into some public discussion eventually, as well as we move towards designing our health and safety plan for the 2020 or the 21-22 school year, and also use it as a vehicle to discuss some of our masking procedures as we work with our summer school program continuing out this summer. So I'll start with a little bit of a little bit of a review as far as our COVID numbers at the local level, and some of the data up on the PowerPoint presentation share some data in regard to Allegheny County, and then also data that relates to here at Carlinton as well. So Allegheny County, we have met regularly with Allegheny County Health Department as superintendents across Allegheny County. This data has come directly from them, who have been great partners in this process to assemble data and share information with us. The data there, basically what it shows when we looked at trends in data, separated out into 3 different groups there, with students age 5 through 12, students age 13 to 18, and then also with staff members as well. And just looking at trends over the past year or so, there's a steady increase of numbers between students age 5 through 12. From October through April is when it really spiked. And then since April moving into June, those numbers have declined. Similar types of trends happened with age groups of 13 through 18. That group saw a little bit of a spike back in November. Cases declined a little bit from there, but then they spiked again in April, and then again significantly dropped from April through June. Our staff had some of their higher numbers in November, and they decreased. They followed by a slight increase in March, which was just before the spike that we saw with students. And then again, also the adults, we started to notice that those numbers had declined from March through June. So since the beginning of June, one thing that we have noticed, and a lot of it can be attributed to the vaccine program, cases have decreased significantly. And just in Allegheny County, there have been 16 cases, age group 5 through 12, 36 cases or 38 cases in the age groups of 13 through 18. And when you can contrast those numbers back to March, February, January, the whole month of June here, as far as those numbers represented on a daily basis, some of the numbers that we were seeing earlier this year. So numbers have certainly come down. They're moving in the right direction, which for us is very exciting as far as our opening plans for next school year. Total in Allegheny County, the month of June, is roughly 500 cases, which again, if you go back to some earlier months, 500 was a number we saw on individual days. Carlinton data that we have up there specifically throughout the course of the school year, we had 86 cases that were reported by students or by families to us directly. That number also includes cases that were reported as presumed positive cases. And you can see how it varies from one building to the next. We had 46 cases at the junior senior high school. Of those, 34 were students, 12 were staff. At Carnegie, we had 11 total, 5 students and 6 staff. And then at Crafton, we had 28 total court cases reported, 23 from students and 5 from staff members. We also had 1 traveling staff member who had COVID throughout the process. In regard to community spread within the schoolhouse, we did recognize that there was a potential of 1 case of community spread. That was from 1 positive individual to another. And in that particular case, it's not a confirmed one because the individual who followed up with COVID, it was a presumed positive. But that was the collaboration that we had with Allegheny County Health Department in working with them and sharing out that information. But in general, our school safety plan, the health and safety plan, in hindsight, did a very good job at preventing the spread of the virus here in the schoolhouse, which allowed us for a larger portion of the year to work in that face-to-face model. The next slide talks a little bit about the masking guidelines. As most people know, on June 28th, that's when the order from the governor and from the state does not require the wearing of a mask of those individuals who have not been vaccinated. So in the current state, as far as vaccination numbers right now, this is as of June 10th. The data we got from Allegheny County Health Department showed that 100% of those above age 65 have been vaccinated. And then you can start slowly moving down through that chart in those different age groups, 50 to 64, 35 to 50, and so on. You can see how the vaccination percentages start to decrease as we move down through. We have worked with really the 10 through 14 was the age group that they gave to us, but we know that the vaccine is only available right now to 12 and above. But you can see that 13% of individuals 10 through 14 have the vaccination, 41% 15 to 19. That's our school age that we've been keeping real close tracks of this school year. to the point where we sponsored 2 vaccine clinics. One was for the 16 and above, and the other was for 12 and above. One was through Giant Eagle and one was through Rite Aid. And through those programs, we were able to get approximately 70 of our students both doses of vaccines that just finished up earlier this June. So as those numbers start to increase and the vaccine is more widely available to students and adults, there are plans out there that the vaccine will be available to younger age groups coming up in the fall, which will certainly help decrease the spread of COVID. Next slide talks a little bit about our summer programming, just to give some insight into the number of students that we have in our summer program. To kind of segue into our masking policy then, we are running summer school programs at both the elementary and at the secondary level. Both started off this week and experiencing very good results from participation from our students. In K through 3, session 1, we have approximately 40 students who are attending. 4 through 6 will not start until mid-July for our fourth grade through 6th grade. There we anticipate about 25 students. And we also have afternoon programs that are running in coordination with Art Expressions and Pittsburgh Cultural Trust, which we have very good numbers for those as well. Approximately 80 students in both afternoon sessions in session 1 and session 2 in the afternoon program. So currently, in the next slide, have some recommendations for what we look for with masking for the summer programming. This week being the week of June 21st, the masking policy is still in place for those who are non-vaccinated. The state guidelines say that non-vaccinated must be wearing a mask. So as we've been running the summer program here this week, both students and staff, regardless of whether they've been vaccinated, have been wearing masks. As we approach next week, beginning on the 28th, it is my recommendation to the board that we move forward with a masking policy that suggests to those who have not been vaccinated that they wear a mask. However, leave the final decision up to the individuals and the families in regard to whether or not their child would wear a mask while attending our programs. In coordination then with Allegheny County, we'd look to continue our collaboration, meet with them on a regular basis, continue to monitor our numbers throughout the process, and make any adjustments that we would need to make. For example, if we would see a spike here in the middle of the summer, it's not anticipated. However, we would be prepared to collaborate with them to get updated information from them. But as I mentioned, I think with the lifting of the masking order, I think it is important to allow individuals to make their own decisions in regard to masking, make the suggestion but not require, and leave that decision up to individual families. The state allows us to make those decisions. The state puts that order out that they will be lifting the masking policy, but does extend the latitude to local school districts to make individual decisions as well. So we do have the latitude to continue to mandate masks if we want to move that direction. But as far as the masking policy, it's not required beginning on June 28th. So the next slide then moves a little bit into the health and safety plan. As Mr. Loughran addressed there, we had a health and safety plan that we revised and updated twice throughout the course of this school year. The American Rescue Plan and also the U.S. Department of Education will require us to develop a new health and safety plan for the 21-22 school year. We need to have that plan updated and uploaded onto our site by July 30th. And very similar to the health and safety plan that we put in place this past school year, there are certain criteria that are listed there. They're very similar to the plan that we currently have in place. Discusses how the district will implement prevention and mitigation strategies to prevent the spread of COVID in the schoolhouse. It talks about how the district will ensure continuity of services that has to do with academic, social, emotional, mental health, physical health, and then also with food service. And then also how the district will maintain the health and safety plan for all stakeholders in regard to masks, physical distancing, hygiene, cleaning, ventilation, contact tracing. So a lot of the things that we're familiar with that are already embedded into our plan this year will need to be rethought, retooled if necessary to go into the new health and safety plan. So we'll take a look at that plan. As far as moving forward on the next slide with the plans for the new health and safety plan, what we plan to do is plan to draft that health and safety plan and get that on for board approval by July 13th so that we can meet the deadline of July 30th. We will post the preliminary plan on our website. We will e-blast it out to all of our families. And along with that, we will also include then a survey that will allow all stakeholders to provide feedback onto the details of the plan. So we'll have the full plan out there. Individuals will be able to look through it. If they want to make comments back in regard to the contents of that, we'll listen to that, reshape it, reform it if we need to. And then also with that survey is start to get some feedback from parents and families in the community in regard to what their feelings are with next school year based on implementing that plan, to see what their comfort level is returning back to school, looking at how that will shape our instructional model. So as we shared before, we're looking to operate in person 5 days a week next year under the new health and safety plan, push that information out to our stakeholders, get some feedback, revise it as we need to do so. And then after we get the plan approved, then what we'll go through is, again, we'll post it up on the website, and then we're required at least in intervals of every 6 months to go back and review the policy and make regular updates to it, which is very similar to what we did this year. It wasn't a requirement, but it is one thing that we did do is we constantly revisited that plan with the local stakeholders just to determine how effective it was. And as I mentioned, we made, I think, 2 revisions over the course of the school year to make those updates. And we also have to take into consideration recommendations from the CDC as we design and implement that plan. So that's the contents of my report. I wanted to open it up to the board just for a little bit of open discussion in regard to masking policy moving forward, beginning June 28th. And as I had mentioned, my recommendation would be to make the suggestion that those who have not been vaccinated to wear the mask. However, leave the final decision making up to individual students and families in regard to wearing the mask. And I'll put it up to board discussion for any feedback on that recommendation.
I would agree. I think that experience in 2020 shows that, basically what went on in the community was affected what was going on here in the sense that, oh, thanks, George. In the sense that, the transmission of the virus in the schools was mitigated by the measures that you folks put into place, but we did have students and staff and faculty showing up with an infection we had to deal with, and where they got that was in the community. So, we can't reasonably expect that, we can prevent things up here that we're not an island, we're part of the community, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, your plan makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
And keeping in mind that we have to be flexible and be able to change as things in the environment change. That's all.
Yeah, one of the things I took note of at commencement was just using that as a barometer, just to get a feel from our community. For our commencement ceremony, we were able to separate our students at 6 feet intervals. So we were able, in an outdoor setting, able to have our students go through the entire commencement ceremony without wearing a mask. And also just reading off of those sitting in front of us in the stadium, there was not a lot of masks in the fans that were not the fans, the parents and the family
Well,
members,
also
the cheering of the crowd. There were limited masks. So I think we want to get that feel from our community as far as the policy that we make. We want to make sure that it does reflect the needs of our community as well. That was one informal way of gathering some data, but what we will do is put out a more formal tool to collect that data then from our stakeholders.
I think Chris's point is good, though. We have to, I think any communication with families, whether it's about the summer programming, it's about fall, whatever it's about, it has to be clear that we will respond to what occurs and as situations may change. So, our policy as of right now for the beginning of summer programming is masks are suggested. But at some point that may change if we see a spike in this, that, or the other. So I think people get most angry when they think you're changing the rules in the middle of a game. And if we can explain that there are no rules here because we don't control things as they change, that when those kinds of changes have to be made, it causes slightly less anger, or at least has the potential.
And I think our community was very receptive to the dynamic nature of our policies, just based on the different types of rules and regulations that were passed down to us from either from the state or from the Department of Health, and how we had to go through and implement those. But I definitely agree that we do want to make it clear that we are listening. We did take a very close look at the data that we received to all of our surveys in the past, to take those into consideration as far as our academic model that we put in place. So I think that is important to continue to listen to. The Delta strand that they're talking about, that's affecting 10% of all COVID cases right now, they're projecting possibly to be more of an issue in the fall. But there again, we've heard so many different things from news outlets, Department of Health outlets, as far as where the virus is going. Some of those things have panned out, some of those things haven't. None of us have the crystal ball to go through and forecast exactly what this thing's going to do to us. But yeah, I think we just have to be flexible and have open ears to the community and make sure that we're serving our kids.
Dr. Prater, so the masks are only one aspect of strategy for mitigating the virus, but knowing that our smallest population is that 10 and under, like they're not getting vaccinated. So in the schools, will we still be having distance, like they can have their masks off on the playground, or are you looking for just a district-wide no mask if they're not vaccinated?
Well,
We know none of them are vaccinated in elementary schools.
correct. Especially the K through 3 programming that we have right now, they're not. The 4 through 6, you may have a few students who are age 12 and above that may. It's a limited number of students who are coming. We do have some 4 through 6 coming to the afternoon programs. But as of now, with the COVID numbers that we look at as far as infection rates in this month of June, the numbers are extremely small. And that's one thing I take a look at on Allegheny County is now reporting out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays instead of every day where they were doing it every day. But even there, that lowest age group, that 5 to 12 age group is putting out numbers of 1 or 2 countywide as far as infection rates. In talking to Allegheny County, with those numbers, it's very unlikely that we would get a transmission to report to school and then to get it to spread within the building. So the recommendation I'm looking at is even for this summer, the K through 3 students to be able to make the choice not to wear the mask. We'll make the suggestion since they're not. But yes, we will still have, and in our upcoming health and safety plan, we will still have a lot of the mitigation strategies that we had in place this year, including physical distancing to the greatest extent possible. So I don't see much of a change in our classrooms, the way that we've structured them. I know Mr. McDade spent all last summer touring each of our classrooms to take a look at furniture that was in the classrooms, getting them out so that we could spread out. So I don't see much of a return of that old furniture back into the classroom next year, because we will try to keep our kids separated as much as possible.
Okay. Just think about the fall when all the kids are congregating again in the schools. And this is where they're spending most of their day.
Right.
So then it becomes, I think the risk goes up again. But it's just like Director Brian said, just being flexible and responsive.
Yeah. And I think that's where, when we put the survey out within the next couple of weeks, is to collect that information as far as those comfort levels. Because in August, early September, I don't think that there's going to be a vaccine program in place for K through 3 students. That may come in October, November when it starts to get rolled out. I would think at that time the vaccine will be readily available to to just about everybody who wants it. But nonetheless, there'll definitely be a delay in the opening. So that will be a part that we may need to take into consideration at the elementary level.
John, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I might have missed it, but with Sarah not here, our ESL program is starting on Monday. How many kids do we have?
I think it started, well, it started this past Monday.
I thought it was the 28th. Okay.
I think we had some students report. No, you're right. It's not until later. It's actually in July. And I think at this point we had 12 ESL students
Okay.
report. That's for the high school program. And then we also have CASP and our other, that's more special education taking place down at Carnegie.
Okay. The second question with we have so many ESL kids here.
Mhm.
Are we still getting revenue? Are we still getting paid for those services less than what it's costing us?
Oh, yes. Yeah. As far as mandates that come out from the federal government, from the state government, as far as being able to provide all services to ESL populations, special education populations, the funding, when originally intended for IDEA and services such as that, the federal government initially committed back in the 70s that they were going to pay for 40% of those mandates. Since that time, the federal government has contributed about 1%
Oh,
to fund those programs. So the funding has definitely decreased from the funding from the federal and then also from the state level. The basic education formula is under review at the state level. There was some information that came out as far as some relief being provided by the federal government. I think $300 billion out to school districts across the United States to help close some of those gaps. However, it just came out today, so I haven't read into that as deeply yet. But next school year, we are looking at expanding services to our ESL population through partnerships with Pittsburgh Literacy and through Hello Neighbor, which is a great organization. And Mrs. Bachman has done an outstanding job at Carnegie with her leadership, working with her school psychologist and group of teachers there to provide additional services for our ELL population, to help them connect with other individuals in the area, to set them up with, it's more like partnerships to guide them through different types of processes that occur outside the schoolhouse. And then she's also working on setting up a program throughout the course of the school year in the evening. And we're looking to get daycare for the kids as well if they would need daycare issues, to provide job interviewing skills, resume building, fluency in the English language. So a lot of real strong programming coming out of Carnegie for next year that we're really excited. We have a meeting, I think it's next week, to meet with Pittsburgh Literacy to collect more information on that and to get that program together. Now there we're looking at applying for grants. You received a grant for the grant you just received. That was not for this program, was it? Right. Yep. So I think that the Chill project and everything that we've worked with at Carnegie, I think has really expanded to, it's not just a program that we originally identified for students in need of mental health and social emotional types of needs. It's expanded to being a very useful program for all students, including ELL, and also for staff members as well, as far as that programming. So yeah, a lot of new programming that We also posted the new position to have a grant coordinator as part of the responsibilities for a new position that we have coming up to help write grants, to help support some of those different initiatives to get some additional funding for.
I do have one final question. You may not be aware of this, but a lot of the immigrant kids go back to their home countries for the summer. Ukrainians and a bunch of them from the Middle East. Okay, in Ukraine in particular, the Indian variant, the South African variant are hot. What are we going to have in place so that they don't bring these variants into our schools? Are you looking ahead to have maybe, say, a 2-week period that they come to America, required to come to America 2 weeks before school starts?
So I know the current travel guidelines of those traveling outside the United States is that they do need to test for COVID prior to boarding a flight back to the United States. So that's the United States policy right now. So those who travel over the summer, if you go to Mexico or you're going to Dominican Republic or you're going to Europe, you do need to get a COVID test before you get on a chartered flight back to the United States. So that's one level of protection from the federal government level. As far as the local level here, the state does not have the travel ban, and they do not have the quarantine measures for after travel at the state level. That was a tricky component of trying to enforce that, even when it was in place. Trying to find out whether people traveled out of state and were coming back into Pennsylvania, it was tough to monitor. So it'd be a challenge to monitor, but I see your concern.
Is it possible that we could be proactive and anticipate maybe a need here, because there's so many kids that speak English as a second language?
Yes.
And that will be returning.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that realistically, all we could do is make a suggestion that it's a good idea to quarantine for 14 days. If Pennsylvania doesn't have a requirement, I can't see that we can impose a school district requirement to bar kids from the building if there's no state mandate behind it.
Even if it's a school district that has so many kids that would be doing this summer, are we restricted?
I think you're, yeah.
Feels discriminatory.
And just hope for the best. Apparently.
Well, yeah, I think Dr. Kreider explained what's in place, but I don't think we have the power or the authority to impose those types of.
That's one of our freedoms. Yeah.
But I think putting a strong recommendation out there to be very cautious of that. And the one piece we do have to continue to monitor is, will the federal government still require the COVID testing before coming back into the United States? If they are, then it's a pretty good defense within itself. And it's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Joe. We did receive training. Mike outlined that in his plan. Is that we did receive training. We're one of only 4 or 5 school districts in Allegheny County that received antigen testing training. So we have a set of 90 COVID tests right now that are very easy to use. You do the nasal swab, you drop it with 6 drops, you put it into a little reader, you leave it there for 15 minutes, it incubates, and then you get the result back pretty quickly. And then there's different protocols to follow, that if the person's symptomatic, if they're not symptomatic, what steps you follow, and then whether you have them follow up for a full diagnostic test to send it off to the lab. And that is something that we're working on this summer also, is to put communications out to parents for that opportunity. It's not a test that we would force on an individual. We would have to have parent agreement ahead of time. So we look to send that information out in the very beginning of the school year with parental consent forms to receive the COVID test here at school.
Thank you.
John, Dr. Kreider, I should say. I'm sorry, it's disrespectful. But what I'm thinking of is, so many people, with the mask mandates being lifted are lax now, and they're thinking, oh, this thing's over. And, maybe aren't following up with, well, I have some symptoms. Should I get tested? So you know, I'm sure that we're following our health and safety plan and that we're following that through in the summer and all that, but through like summer programs, it doesn't seem as structured as the school year in terms of who do I report that to, or, you know, just making clear that, hey, even now, if you have symptoms, you need to tell us, you know, so I just want to make sure that we're
And it-
underscoring the importance of that.
It's a good point, and we planned on sending out a correspondence to parents as far as, you know, the outcome of this discussion this evening, just to share with parents for next week as far as what our recommended policy is on wearing masks. And then also to just reiterate that if you're not feeling well, to stay home, and to report all COVID cases. We do we have school nurses in each of our buildings for the morning programs, so that students do have the opportunity to touch base with a health professional here while they're here, and get that report. And we'll follow the exact same procedures with the certified school nurses that we would during the regular school year. Yeah.
Thanks. Dr. Kreider, for
Yes.
the morning programs where the students are participating, and those are the ones that they have academic remediation, right?
Correct.
If a student needs to be in that class and does not feel comfortable being in the class, if we remove a mask mandate, what are their options at that point?
Well, their option, I think, is they can choose to wear a mask, and still attend. But outside of that, we don't have, it's more or less a strict in-person type of delivery. Because what we learned from the pandemic and the delivery model that we had, attendance was one of the main contributors to students not experiencing success in the classroom. And that lack of face-to-face interaction with the instructor, our data indicates that was the main source of why students did not succeed academically. So they would need to be here. And I think if we have the distancing in place, if they're wearing a mask, we're still going through with Mr. McDade and cleaning the facility, each of the classrooms every night too. On our end, we feel that they're safe. There may be some that don't feel that they're safe, but we'd still want them to be here.
That would be my hesitation to removing a mandate, would be that a student would miss out on that necessary kind of remediation class that they're going through. I don't know, it could just be a hypothetical, but it may be something that we want to ask of the people who are participating in those classes before making a district-wide decision. And it could be on a case-by-case basis in each classroom or each session or something along those lines. I know that makes things far more complicated for your team to administer, but that would be my only hesitation.
Okay.
It would be helpful to assess that first before, if nobody has a problem with maybe changing that, easy to implement, we can feel good about it. But with additional administrative.
You're going to be the referee at the basketball game again. You're going to blow the whistle and half the side's going to cheer and the other half's going to boo. But, okay.
I guess is it worth knowing that before we go in?
Let me think about that. So basically, we're looking to collect data from students as far as their comfort level returning to, yeah, I mean, it's really, that's the same data that we're really looking for next school year. That was the intent of that survey. It's now we're accelerating it to the summer program.
Smaller group of people.
Yeah.
That might give us an idea of what fall reaction would look like.
And there's 1 week, right, that we're looking at, because the first week of the programming, the mask mandate will be in place. It's just the week.
And that's this week right now. So we're in that. So it's actually
Next
starting
week,
Monday on the 28th.
Is it just for 1 week that we have the students?
No, it's from now until June 23rd or July 23rd is the
Okay.
last day of it. So we could quickly collect that data. We have not had any students refuse to attend simply because we've asked them to wear a mask. And we haven't had any issues with kids wearing masks up to this point during the day so far this, in the summer program. So I could do a quick survey out to that small group of students who are attending the summer program to see what their comfort level will be returning to an environment where masks are not required.
And we don't have to make a decision necessarily by June 28th, just because that's when the state is lifting their mandate. We could say we need one more week to do the survey, and then July 7th or whatever that Monday is would be our.
That's correct. Yeah, we have the ability to be more restrictive than what the state guidelines are as a public school. So yeah, that's something we can do if that would make people feel more comfortable with moving forward. We can certainly do that. Yeah. All right. Let's bank on that. We'll collect some data, and I can share results back pretty quickly. I'll put a quick turnaround time on it. Any other items for discussion? Very good. Mr. Shriver, back to you.
Looking at committee reports, Director Apple, anything to share about Parkway West? Fantastic.
Joe has held out on us because the meal that I received that evening when I attended the meeting in his place was phenomenal. But no, definitely, I was very impressed by Parkway. It's, VOTech compared to what it was when we were in school. It's quite a difference, and it's an impressive program. They did hold their commencement ceremonies by individual areas, and it was a little bit different. I don't know if you were able to attend anything, but they're considering doing that going forward because it gave them a much more personal feel of recognizing those students as they graduated from their respective departments. I apologize, though, I did not get the number of actual graduates. I should have paid attention to that. Do you know? Okay. I do know, though, that they also held the National Technical Honor Society induction ceremonies, and they inducted 53 students into that. And they are forecasting enrollment for next year to be around 930 students. They were waiting for responses, I believe, from 2 districts at the time, but this meeting was on June 1st, so they probably have a better idea of that for next year. And otherwise, it was kind of the basics: approvals of treasurer's reports, activities account, fund balance, service contracts. They did approve the reappointment of Dr. William Strop, as Superintendent of Record and Hearing Officer for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th of 2023. And the July meeting will be virtual, so they will not be meeting in person in July, so you should be getting the information.
Wonder if he gets no food.
Exactly. And that's all I
Kelly,
have.
as far as enrollment, did they say if that was how that compared to previous years? Is it more?
It's growing,
Yeah.
yes. It, quite significantly, so they're doing well.
Thank you.
Anything else, or is that?
Nope, that's all I have.
Good, thank you. Director Honchar, any updates on Pathfinder?
Yes. By the way, Joe, our secret about the food at Parkway is out. Yeah, thank you, Jim. First of all, this year we had 14 graduates, and they graduated on Tuesday, June 8th. There were 2 sessions of graduations because we had so many kids, which of course, so many parents. After this graduation, we'll have 80 students, but we may have 10 coming back from this graduating class because the state is allowing graduates to return 1 year because of COVID loss of learning, even though Pathfinder was face-to-face for most of the school year. It's going to be good financially for the school. It's going to be good for the kids because of the extra learning, but it's not going to be so good for the principal because he'll have to hire a teacher just for 1 year. This is only going to last for 1 year. And finally, we have 2 Carleton students. And I have to tell you, the second one that came in came from Syria. And I'm sorry that Sarah's not here to report. The father never knew that in the world there was a society that would give his child an education. In Syria, he was just locked up in the house. I mean, doesn't that say something wonderful about the United States? Jim, that's the end of my report. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Zaleski. Dr. Zaleski, a
She's
promotion.
been promoted.
Director Zaleski, anything new on Chaz? I know that they have been remote most of the time and haven't done much. So, okay. Okay, thank you. Director, not Dr. Simsek. Any?
Oh, no promotion for me. All right.
Next.
We're logging in to like the virtual class.
Okay, I'll start with legislative PSBA. So I did attend an all-school director meeting on the 17th, June 17th. So anything I have to say was as of that date. They talked about Senate Bill 664, which is the optional year of school. And they said there's a good chance that's going to pass. But it does exclude like schools that were in person most of the year. So districts that were in person most of the year, but they don't know how they're going to fund that yet. So they're saying advocate for funding on that one. Also talked about Senate Bill 1, and you might have all seen an email about that asking to, call your legislator. That's on charter reform. They said it stalled at that point, thanks to the advocacy. So there were a lot of people who reached out on that. And the issue with that is that we want long-term structural change, and it just doesn't affect that enough. So that the way that it would affect funding would be to, it's like a 1.7% difference. It's not enough. So, we want to oppose Senate Bill 1 according to them. Also, there's a voucher bill for special ed, that's Senate Bill 733, and that's sending voucher money to schools that don't have the same protections as public school. So PSBA is also opposing that one. On the federal level, they talked about the Emergency Connectivity Fund, and that's grant money, and they're just saying make sure that you watch for that. There's a website for it, and that you only have a month to apply for that. So it should be coming out soon. And again, that was as of the 17th. So, and that's for, IT related. So what else do I have? There's also, they're asking us to watch for Senate Bill 310. They might be asking for advocacy along those lines as well. That's requiring OSHA level compliance for safety issues. They feel that, we have a lot of standards that, we already have a lot of systems and standards in place, and that would be extremely costly for us to have to meet those OSHA standards and make those changes. So they might be looking for advocacy along those lines as well. So that's for legislative PSBA. As far as the foundation, I am very sad to say that they finally had a meeting and I couldn't go. So I missed it and I'm sorry, but I will go to the next one.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, quick question. With all of the federal stimulus money, with the normal funding streams for technology, with these temporary, do you feel like you have a decent grasp, or do you need help from Dr. Kreider or the other staff to figure out what is relevant for us and what is not, and what, if anything, we need to apply for?
Yeah, so a lot of the grant funding that we saw in Colorado, a lot of it is more geared toward schools that, one, are still very remote, are still kind of looking at that level. A lot of it right now is networking. Not to say that there are some out there that do allow us to spend some money like
relevant. Okay. Okay. Is E-rate still largely intact, or is that? Okay. Okay. Last question. Last year was a tough year, and IT was the backbone of supporting all the remote learning. In your work, have you found a percentage of our population that does not have adequate broadband at home? And are there any programs we can help put on our website or connect families with that might help them achieve better broadband? Right. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Christine brought some issues in Harrisburg. Harrisburg did not give us any charter school controls. So that even though, so that the people, taxpayers know that even though it costs us, the taxpayer, $8,000 or $9,000 to educate each child averagely here in Carlinton, this coming year, Cyber will be spending $17,000 per student at each cyber school. And if they determine that the child has special needs, it's $33,000 that you taxpayers are paying because Harrisburg did not give us any cyber reform. Shame.
Which is why I think, I agree, which is why Chris was pointing out that
Yes.
there were folks looking
Yeah.
for, and there was a movement to fix.
And I have to say, USDA is really, it might not feel like it, but they keep trying to get the message across. The advocacy helps, it works. The more people that speak up and the more people who make the phone calls and send the email, it really does help. And that's what's kind of holding back the one bill that they're opposing. That's what sent it back. And that's what made it didn't pass yet.
Any other questions on committee reports? If not, we'll move on. Under section 4, I'll entertain a motion to approve the field trip and summer school programs as submitted. The 4 field trips as submitted as part of the summer school programming for students. Do I have a motion for that? Thank you. Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under section 5, finance, we have 20 items. So let's split that up into 2 groups. Let's do items 1 to 10. I'll entertain a motion to approve the following. Number 1, the 2021-2022 general fund budget with revenues of $30,879,655 and expenditures in the amount of $30,879,655. Number 2, to approve resolution number 480-21, establishing the millage for real estate taxation for the 2021-2022 fiscal year as follows. Resolved that the Carleton School District does hereby levy and assess the real estate tax for the fiscal year for all taxable property in the district for the boroughs of Carnegie, Crafton, Rosalind Farms at 26.7432 mils or $2.67432 on each $100 of the assessed valuation of all property for school purposes. Number 3, to approve resolution number 481-21, as follows. Resolved that the levy of 1% on all earned income and net profit be levied by resolution number 44 of 1966 and enacted under the authority of the Local and Tax Enabling Act number 511 of 1965 and its amendments hereto. Is hereby renewed for the 2021-2022 fiscal year and for the indefinite term thereafter, and all taxes levied under Act 511 of 1965, including the earned income and net profits tax and the real estate transfer tax, be reenacted without substantial change. Number 4, to approve resolution number 482-21, to accept the funds be made available through Act 1, the Homestead Farmstead and Tax Relief Act. Qualified homeowners of the district will realize a savings of approximately $173.74. Number 5, the treasurer's report for the month of May 2021 as submitted. Number 6, the bills for the month of May 2021 in the amount of $450,554.43. Number 7, to exonerate tax collectors Carissa McKearns, Crafton Borough, Jordan Tax Service, Carnegie Borough, and Dorothy Falk, Rosalind Farms Borough, from further collection of school district real estate taxes for the 2020-2021 school year, effective June 30th, 2021, and that a list of names of homeowners with unpaid taxes be submitted to the delinquent tax collector for the purpose of liening. Number 8, to grant authorization for the appropriate officials to provide tax duplicates to each of the district's tax collectors on or before July 1st, 2021, in accordance with section 682 of the PA School Code. Number 5.9, to authorize the district to acquire the tax collectors' bonds for the tax collectors of Crafton, Carnegie, and Rosalind Farm boroughs as required by section 684 of the PA School Code. So do I have a motion for items 1 through 9 under section 5? Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? So I'd like to ask a question. We had talked last time about our tax rate, and we had some conversations about we're in a fine position, a fine line between having historically had difficulty funding our operations because of the steep pension crisis that we were put into. The pandemic has, while it's hurt a lot of people, it has temporarily reduced our expenditures a little bit and put us in a much better financial position. The ESSER's money is giving us some temporary relief on a lot of the deferred maintenance and the deferred capital expenditures. Are we the easy and probably the correct thing to do would be to tax at the maximum a few more years to get ourselves back into a more sound position? Is it still the district's recommendation, the administration's recommendation to to do so. I see that that's where what we're recommending in the motion. Can you comment on that, Dr. Kreider, or if you want to have Keith comment on that?
I can comment and pass it over to Keith also.
Great.
Just to clarify, you had said tax the highest rate this year and the following years. So no. Yeah. But for this year, yes, we are recommending the tax rate that is given there. However, we are looking to future years to make that determination of whether or not this tax increase, along combined with some of the temporary relief money that we're getting through ESSERS, will be enough to help us accomplish a lot of the goals that we've put out there over the past few years in regard to some of our capital improvement projects. I know when I first started, we had a long list of capital improvement projects that we've made some gains on, but we do have some looming projects out there that will not be covered by temporary relief as far as the COVID. And I know that within the next 2-3 years, we're going to have to put a $2 million roof on the high school here. And then being able to work away at the other items as far as the budget that we put together does not include any of the maintenance or capital improvements into that budget in order to get it balanced at this rate. I think looking at what Director Honchar had mentioned also earlier, we do have increasing costs with charter schools and the relief right now in regard to the legislation out there as far as the state budget and the legislation with charters has not come through in our favor as of yet. And we continue to see rising costs with special education and ELL services that we provide to our students. We want to make sure that as we move forward, we're making sure that we can provide all those services and continue to sustain that for our students. In regard to technology, we still have some purchases to make our infrastructure safer and keep it from malicious types of activities from the outside. The emotional support side of things, we've started with the Chill Project. Again, some of those monies we may be able to get back through ESSERS funding. However, looking to the future beyond the ESSERS funding, those are strong programs that I know that we've supported here at this level for last year and going into next year. We also want to sustain those beyond that time, and then potentially even looking at expanding to Crafton Elementary School as well. So there are a lot of things on the list that with this tax increase, we will be able to accomplish, but our commitment is to continually review and take a look at where this positions us then for next year during the tax season as well in years to come. So just like other things, there's not that crystal ball out there to see what it would look like for next year. But we do want to make gains towards making sure that we're not overtaxing our community in the future as well. So, Mr. Bilby, I don't know if you wanted to have anything else to.
No, Dr. Kreider, I think you stole the thunder pretty much. I mean, I echo everything that you did state. It's really important to not only just look at next year, but to look at the sustainability of the district in a whole. I know we talked in length last meeting about, our projections and where we are. So, whenever I look at coming to you and recommending a tax increase, that's a lot of it. The part of it is that I'm looking at, what's going to position us to get through the next 5 years, but also, is it going to help us get, further on? Because we don't want to say, all right, we're Carlington, in 5 years, we're shutting down. So let's just have a plan for 5 years. No, we have to sustain it. So that's constantly my goal, and that we have to continue to build on. And the COVID savings has given us that opportunity to do things that we haven't been able to do in the past few years since the PCERS. It has allowed us to build a fund balance that will allow us to do some of the projects that you stated, Dr. Kreider, that we can do. The ESSERS money, it's going to allow us to buy some computers for the district. We're looking at replacing all the curriculum with the books and everything with the ESSERS money. Let's say computers. That there's a lot of things that we are able to do, especially the capital projects, plans that normally if we had the tax to get, these projects done, it would be almost impossible to get them done as fast as we're going to be able to do. And, we're not actually using the local funds to do it. So that's the advantage of that. Um, there are big unknowns, coming up. But with that said, we will tax this year. We're recommending a tax increase this year, but we will. We will look every year. We're going to start the year fresh, say, okay, how did last year end up? How are our projections looking? Because it's very difficult, especially with me coming in halfway through the budget season, to look at trends when the last year and a half has been something that no one has ever experienced before. So to be able to right size, it's going to take a little bit of time, and this gives us that time, that we're not in the dire straits that we need to really act quickly to recover. So that's really the reason why. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, but I mean, we've discussed a lot of it over the last couple meetings. So that's why we're recommending, and I don't take it lightly. I understand, the effects of raising taxes, but I think that, when we do come to you, it's because, we're looking at the future. We're not just looking at next year.
As many of the board members that have been on the board for a number of years can recall, we have looked at capital project lists in 2013, 2014, 2015, and some of the items that we contemplated then, we couldn't do. We chose not to do because we didn't feel like we had the money. So what I'm hearing you say is we might have an opportunity now to get some of those things done. We were prudent with our money over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Right.
But now we might have a chance.
And that's absolutely true. And it's happening actually right now. We knew that we were going to have some excess for this current year. So through Mr. McDade, we've been able to start looking at replacing the carpet. So we've already made movements to do that. We've also, we've done several different projects already, looking at the concrete and things that, we would had to really think about how are we be able to fund it. Because we had that little bit of extra money from the COVID, we're able to get these projects done now. We bought furniture for the elementary school. There's different things that we've been able to do that normally you wouldn't be able to do. I think I stated last time, when I told Mr. McDade, go out and spend, it was just like Christmas for him because, it's not something that normally a business manager is going to say is like, go out and do this because, for everything that we spend, there's consequences we have to think about. But because we have that ability this year to do that because of the COVID savings, it's really beneficial for the district. And it puts us really in a good position that we get these projects done now and over the next couple of years, then it's something that we don't have to burden the taxpayers in the future for these major projects. And then we might be able to then hold taxes steady. So that's the ultimate goal. We're going to continuously look at it, review it, do projects when we have extra money to do it and get it done.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we have a motion on the table. I guess all those in favor for items 1 through 9 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Going then, items 10 through 20. I'll entertain a motion to approve item 5.10 to renew public official bonding for Board Secretary Keith Bilby and Treasurer Jude Frank. Number 5.11 to approve continued participation in the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust, PLGIT, and Pennsylvania School District Liquid Asset Fund for the purpose of purchasing shares of the trust and the continued designation of Dollar Bank as a depository for the district. Number 5.12 to approve the insurance package for the assigned general fund balance for the 2021-22 school year as recommended by Arthur J. Gallagher Agency at a cost of $130,340. Package includes workers' compensation and cyber liability. Number 5.13 to approve the voluntary student accident insurance package for the 2021-22 school year as recommended by Arthur J. Gallagher Agency at no cost to the district. Number 5.14, to approve VEBH as the architect of record for the Carlington School District. Number 5.15, to approve the behavioral health professional services agreement between the district and Allegheny Health Network for the purposes of a chill room at the Carlington Junior Senior High School as submitted. Number 5.16, to approve the services agreement between the district and the Allegheny Intermediate Unit, which includes a special education addendum for the 2021-22 school year. Number 5.17, to approve the services agreement between the district and the Children's Institute for the 2021-22 school year. Number 5.18, to approve the HAVTech agreement to repair and replace the HVAC components at Crafton Elementary School. Number 5.19, to approve the athletic fund report for the month of May 2021 with an ending balance of $6,025.44. And 5.20, to approve the activities fund reports for the month of May 2021 with an ending balance of $93,855.56. Do I have a motion for items 10 through 20?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under section 6 personnel, we have another large batch. We have 19 items. Let's do numbers 1 through 9 again. I'll entertain a motion to approve item 6.1, the supplemental athletic list with returning coaches for the 2021-22 school year. The stipends for the supplemental position holders are contingent upon completion of the full school year and will be prorated in the event of a shortened or canceled season due to unforeseen circumstances. Number 6.2, to approve the supplemental activities list with returning sponsors and advisors for the 21-22 school year. The stipends for the supplemental position holders are contingent upon completion of the full school year and will be prorated in the event of a shortened or canceled season due to unforeseen circumstances. 6.3, to approve the memorandum of understanding between the district and Lisa Rowley to serve as federal programs coordinator for the 2021-22 school year. 6.4, to approve Lisa Rowley to serve as federal programs coordinator for the 2021-22 school year at a stipend of $8,500. Number 6.5, the supplemental curriculum list of returning curriculum coordinators and the federal program coordinator for the 21-22 school year. The stipends for the supplemental position holders are contingent upon completion of the full school year and will be prorated in the event of a shortened or canceled season due to unforeseen circumstances. Number 6.6, the Act 93 Evaluation and Compensation Plan effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2025 as submitted. Number 6.7, the letter of intent to retire is submitted by custodian Gary McCoskey and effective August 2nd, 2021 per the terms of the Custodial Maintenance Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. Number 6.8, to approve Dave Karsher as a summer maintenance helper for a period of June 23rd, 2021 through August 20th, 2021 at an hourly wage of $26.68 consistent with the terms of the Custodial Maintenance Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. And number 6.9, to approve the list of summer custodian helpers for the summer of 2021 at an hourly wage of $10 as submitted. Do I have a motion for those items 1 through 9?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
I am voting in favor of 6.1 through 6.8 and abstaining from 6.9.
And that's based on a conflict of interest. Will you sign the conflict of interest form at the end of the meeting? Thank you.
Thank you. With that exception on 6.9, all 1 through 9 pass with the one exception on 6.9. Michelle, you have that? Okay, thank you. Returning then to the rest of section 6, I'll entertain a motion to approve items 10 through 19. So item 6.10, the list of summer technology helpers for the summer of 2021 at an hourly rate of $10 as submitted. Number 6.11, a stipend in the amount of $10,000 to Dennis McDade to route and schedule all contracted buses through Monarch Student Transportation. Number 6.12, approve stipends in the amount of $2,000 to Michael Lochran, Emily Skirtich, Lauren Bachman, and Marcia Burleson for overseeing all administrative issues related to summer programming. Number 6.13, to approve a stipend in the amount of $500 to Kimberly Holdcroft for overseeing all scheduling and routing of transportation for students attending the summer programming. Number 6.14, to approve Pamela Quinlan as a summer school instructional aide for the first session, June 21st through July 7th, 2021, excluding July 5th, between the hours of 8:45 a.m. and 11:45 a.m. at the elementary level and consistent with the terms of the SCA collective bargaining unit agreement. Compensation per session is $650. Number 6.15, to approve cafeteria workers Jane Carr, Gina Carson, Kathleen Griffin, Catherine Himmelreich, Richard Laird to prepare lunches for the summer programming, June 21st through July 7th, 2021, excluding July 5th, and July 8th through the 23rd, 2021, between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m., consistent with the terms of the SCA collective bargaining unit agreement. Number 6.16, to approve the request for leaves of absence of employees number CFT 2122-01, CFT SAB 2021-01, and CFT SAB 2021-02 for the 2021-2022 school year. Number 6.17, to approve Cynthia Eddy to proctor the summer makeup Keystone exams on June 23rd and 24th, 2021 at a stipend of $40 per hour. 6.18, to approve Christina Foley, Cheryl Irwin, and Rena Taylor to provide support for the Summer Art Explosion program to be held at Crafton Elementary School. Sessions will take place June 21 through July 7th, 2021, and July 8th through July 23rd, 2021, from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. Compensation will be paid at the per diem rate, consistent with the terms of the SCA collective bargaining unit agreement. Number 6.19, to approve Kathleen Farrow to provide support for the summer Pittsburgh Cultural Trust Performing Arts Program to be held at the junior senior high school. Sessions will take place June 21st through July 7th, 2021, and July 8th through July 23rd, 2021, from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. And compensation would be paid at the per diem rate, consistent with the terms of the SCA collective bargaining unit agreement. Do I have a-
What was the second one?
do I have a motion for those items 10 through 19 under section 6? Thank you. Moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, if not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. No abstentions. Motion carries. Thank you. And yes, I do need adjourn. Section 7, thankfully, there's only 2 items. I will entertain a motion to approve the following 2 items. Number 1, the cooperative agreement between the district and Bishop Canevin as submitted, providing the opportunity for male students to participate on the Bishop Canevin volleyball team. And number 2, to approve the cooperative agreement between the district and Bishop Canevin as submitted, providing the opportunity for students to participate on the Bishop Canevin golf team. Do I have a motion for those 2 items?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to section 8, old business. Does any director have any old business they would like to bring up tonight? Any new business under section 9? Hearing none, we'll move on to open forum. Anyone in the audience have any open forum questions they would like to ask tonight? Seeing none? Seeing none, I'll turn to the board. Any open forum questions? All right. Director Mendoza, this is your favorite part. You ready? If there's no other open,
Second.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.